So today we're going to talk about heart health, and there are so many myths out there about what actually creates heart disease and what doesn't. So in this video, I really want to talk about like the 3 categories of food that you've got to get rid of if you are trying to improve your cardiovascular health. And these 3, hopefully you know, but I think there still is a lot of myths out there in the world around what type of fat actually contributes to heart health and what type of fat actually can support good heart health. So I want to kind of break this down in the simplest way possible. Before I do that, I got to talk about 2 things. So first, we got to talk about cholesterol, and this is a really important one, because so many people still are looking at cholesterol as being a major indicator or a major contributor to poor heart health. But I want to read a statistic to you actually from the American Heart Association, and I'll leave the link so that you can actually go look this up yourself. This is the statistic. A few years ago, the American Heart Association said that dietary cholesterol has no impact on heart disease risk, and that it's no longer a nutrient of concern. So we've got the cholesterol in your body, and we have the cholesterol in food. And what we are now realizing is that cholesterol in food isn't contributing to cardiovascular challenges. So that leaves us with, well, what in food is actually contributing to cardiovascular events? And it really breaks down into 3 categories. The first category are what we call trans fats. And trans fats are fats you're gonna find in my friend or not friend, the typical potato chip. So these are your partially hydrogenated oils. So I wanna read you a couple of statistics about trans fats. And then I want to talk about how you find these on a label, because the important thing is not just knowing that these are contributing to cardiovascular problems, but the important thing is to know how do you locate them. But when it comes to trans fats, there's a couple of really, really scary statistics. So, and there's several. I'm going to leave links to all these studies for you all, but here's what I want to tell you. Trans fats alone have caused several 100,000 cardiovascular deaths a year. Several 100,000 a year, one study found. They also, in 2020, the US banned partially hydrogenated oils because of their ability to contribute to cardiovascular disease. The thing I want to say on that one is that in 2020 we banned it, but they gave them, the food companies, like the potato chip companies, they gave them several years to be able to slowly move it out of our food system. So you still are going to need to read your labels and see if partially hydrogenated oils are on that label, because that is a trans fat that is contributing to cardiovascular problems. Now, one thing that I don't talk enough about when it comes to food, and I found some really interesting research on it when it comes to trans fats, is how much. Like if you sit down and you eat like a whole bag full of partially hydrogenated oil potato chips, like are you going to get a heart attack the next day? Well, the research on this is really interesting. It shows that just 4 grams of artificial trans fats per day, that's less than a teaspoon per day, increases your heart risk by 23%. So if you eat a half a bag of potato chips, you are ingesting several grams in half of a bag of potato chips. So if you have a potato chip habit and you're doing the whole bag, you may actually be hitting your trans fat limit every single day, increasing your chances of a cardiovascular event by 23%. So this is why understanding ingredient labels and knowing where these partially hydrogenated oil trans fats live is really important. A couple other of these trans fats that I want you to look out for. Soybean oil. So that you'll find that in the, and for those of you who maybe don't know where the ingredient label is, it's right here on the back underneath. When I look at an ingredient label, I don't go to the calories. The first thing I go to is the ingredients, because ingredients matter before anything else. Let's see if this one, okay, so this one has soybean in it, it has canola, it has corn, and it has sunflower oil. So they put it under the guise of vegetable oil, which is my other trans fats that I want to point out. So we have partially hydrogenated, we have soybean oil, and then we have your typical vegetable oils. And those are all inflammatory trans fats. And then you add in the canolas, you add in the corns, the sunflower, the safflower. When you hear me talk about the bad fats, I'm talking about these trans fats that they are sprayed on our food to enhance taste, and they actually create this dopamine addiction to certain foods, and they are contributing massively to cardiovascular challenges. So there's so many other chip options. Make sure coming down the road, depending on when you watch this, I've started a cooking show, and one of the episodes that I filmed was with Marie Forleo, and we did a chip throwdown. And we talk about how do you understand chips. It's so good. I can't wait for you all to get it. It'll be coming out here very shortly, depending on when you are watching this. But yep, this stuff, not good. The other reason, by the way, they put these oils on there is it enhances flavors, it creates this dopamine effect, but it will actually increase the shelf life. So I'm actually gonna, I'm not gonna eat these Lay's potato chips. I'm gonna put them in my cupboard, and I'll just keep pulling them out for whatever I want to do a video to tell you not to eat these. And it'll literally stay exactly like this. It's never did this in my clinic where we had a box of toxic food that I would bring out when I was teaching my patients what to avoid. And that box literally lived in our back of our cabinet, in a closet in my clinic, and with all these processed foods, with all these trans fats in them. And it stayed there for years, and they looked exactly like the day you would buy them. That's horrible. It's like dead food that is killing you. Okay, that's trans fats. So the second type of food that I want you to avoid is the deep fried food. So, these are your French fries, even your sweet potato fries, these are your chicken tenders. What happens when we take a fat and we heat it up really high is we create something called advanced glycation. This is where we start to take these fat molecules and they start to bond together and form like a syrupy sugar that is going to start to stick to the arterial walls that are within your body. So let's walk you through this for a hot moment. When we are doing deep fried foods, if this was your artery and you have blood that's flowing through your artery, each time you are eating these deep fried foods, you are creating like a plaquing on the inside of these arteries. That increases the pressure within the artery, so you're going to start to see higher blood pressure. But it also slows down how much blood can start to flow to different areas of your body. Within your blood lives your red blood cell, and the red blood cell's job is to deliver oxygen to your tissues to keep them youthful and functioning well. One of those places is your brain. So when we are doing a lot of deep fried foods, what we're doing is that we're slowing down the delivery of these red blood cells, which is slowing down the delivery of oxygen to tissues, and your tissues are going to age much quicker. The challenge with deep frying is that we've taken a food, a harmful fat, and we've heated up, which is making those molecules stick together, which is making your blood much more viscous, which is adding to that plaquing on the side of the wall. So it's really important that we stay away from these deep fried foods that are fried in these trans fats. So these are again, we're back at your vegetable oils, your canola oils. When we heat them up, we make them 3 times as more harmful for the body, which is why French fries aren't great, which is why fried foods like this aren't great. Now, if you're cooking at home, you could do a more natural oil. So like this actual chicken tender actually came from my health food store. And believe it or not, it was fried in rice bran oil. So, you know, if you did like avocado oil or you did like a coconut oil and you made it at home, what you would find is that you're not going to end up with this glycation process that's creating this plaquing on the side of your arteries, affecting the blood flow and oxygen distribution to your body. So it's not like you have to give up fried foods. Let's just fry with something different and do it at home. You can ask when you go out what they're frying those foods with, but I can tell you I've done it. And even at the best restaurants, it's always the same thing. It's always canola oil or vegetable oil. And some of the really toxic places are still using partially hydrogenated oils. So deep frying, this is bad. Deep frying is even worse. Okay, I got to interrupt this video because I have a free guide for you so you can master fasting. It's called A Beginner's Guide to a Fasting Lifestyle. And all you've got to do is click here and you can jump right in. Okay, number 3 for cardiovascular health. And this is one that got talked about a long time ago. I don't know why we're not addressing it as much as we should, but when it comes to cardiovascular health, the most important thing that you need to look at food-wise is your sugar load. So I want to give you a couple of interesting studies that I found on how sugar contributes to cardiovascular health. So the first thing, and this is how I want you to think of this, the first thing is that every time you eat sugar, it creates this low grade of inflammation in your body. And that inflammation, again, is going to start to create more higher blood pressure because it's going to create more pressure within the arterial walls. And if it stays there long enough, it can lead to this plaquing, and you combine that with the fried foods and the trans fats, and now you are accelerating the process of putting you down the path towards a cardiovascular event. So it's the chronic low-grade inflammation of sugar that's the problem, and it's every time you're eating sugar. It would be like, you know, over time, it would be like if you had a sprained ankle that never went down and you just walked on it and walked on it and walked on it. After a while, that ankle is going to be a mess. The muscles are going to be tight. The joints are going to degenerate much quicker, and you're not going to be able to use the functionality of your ankle. Well, the same thing's happening is that you're inflaming. Just like you can see an inflamed ankle from a sprain, the challenge we have with these foods is you can't see the inflammation, but it's there. And your doctor is seeing it on things like your blood work. So we want to, these 3, it's so simple. It's not hard. It's trans fats, it's deep fried, and it's sugar. And if we start to pull just those 3 out, then now you have a better chance at improving your cardiovascular health. Now, last thing I want to say, and I'm going to keep saying this in as many different places that I possibly can because this keeps showing up on my socials. So many of you recently saw that there was a study that came out showing that intermittent fasting increased cardiovascular problems by 91%. So I did an Instagram live on this. I dove into the research. Since we're doing a video here on cardiovascular health, I just want to point this out. So it was not a peer-reviewed study, meaning they did not vet the study for proper research techniques. It was also done over many, many years, and over a long several-year period, they had people call in and answer questions 2 days out of several years. And one of those questions was, do you intermittent fast? And if they said yes, they put them into one category of these are all the intermittent fasters. Now, everybody has a little different response to what intermittent fasting is. I've met people who are like, oh yeah, intermittent fast, I only drink juice in the morning. That's not intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is where you're letting your blood sugar come down and you're switching over into that fasted state. So the fact that they called in, they said they were intermittent fasting, nobody checked to see what type of intermittent fasting they were doing. Now, the other thing on that study that was really interesting is that 27% of the people that were intermittent fasters actually were smokers too. And then the other part of this study that was completely erroneous is they didn't look at what they ate. And so if you have a fasting lifestyle and you're smoking and you're eating this, I can't tell you that you're going to prevent a cardiovascular event. These foods cause a cardiovascular problem. Smoking causes a cardiovascular problem. And just because you're fasting with all of that doesn't mean that fasting is going to help you overcome that cardiovascular challenge that you are setting yourself up for. So I had to address that because we're on this, and I know a lot of you have asked. And I really think that we have to learn to stop taking things out of context and put them more into some kind of formula that we can work with. And when we're looking at cardiovascular health, one of the absolute most important thing if you want to prevent a heart attack or a stroke is you got to get off these foods. Like today. Like leave this video, and if you've got Lay's potato chips in there, go and throw them away. Like now. Or hide them away from somebody, from yourself. That somebody might be yourself. But you want to get them out of your life. And then fried foods, really avoid fried foods because of the intensity of plaquing that it can create around the artery wall. And then remember that sugar is like a chronic inflammation situation every single day that you eat that. If you take these three things out, and I won't even address the smoking, and you build yourself a fasting lifestyle, I absolutely promise you that you will be in great cardiovascular shape. It is what the research says. It's what we're seeing here on YouTube after millions of people doing this. We've got to get into the nuance of these buzz headlines that are coming through that are trying to scare you around eating well and fasting and the power that food and metabolic switching can have on your health. We have definitely come at a time where it is profitable to keep us medicated. It is profitable to keep us sick. And I'm trying to use platforms like YouTube here to educate you all on making really smart choices so you don't fall prey to those sensational headlines, and that you have the tools to navigate this new world we're in where ingredients are very difficult and misinformation around food is everywhere. So why I think fasting works so well was because it gave everybody a break from the complicated food system. So now here on YouTube, I'm inviting you back into the food conversation, and let's get into the nitty gritty. You're going to see a lot more food videos here on my YouTube channel. And I will tell you that there is a book for women on hormones and food coming out at the end of 2024, November 2024, called Eat Like a Girl, where I talk about the foods you should be adding in. So as always, I hope this helps. This is the kind of information your doctor should have told you. Those of you who are doctors or nurses and send your patients here, kudos to you. I'm trying to support you and help you. I know you're living a very hectic, busy career. And the more we take videos like this, we take research like I'm going to link below, and we start to educate the masses, the more everybody wins and the healthier the world will be. So, as always, I hope that helps. And put in the comments if you have any strategies for getting off these addictive foods, because they are addictive. So if you have found some strategies, put in the comments. And always, I'm cheering you on. I hope that helps. Okay, where are my gals that are struggling with hormonal imbalance? Bloated, feeling like you're not making progress with weight loss? You need to add these foods in so that you can support better hormonal health. There is a lifestyle that estrogen wants you to live, and there's a lifestyle that progesterone wants you to live.